So what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about Illustrator. We're going to kind of dive on in, and I'm just going to give you the basics, and then I'm going to um, give you an exercise to do, and then we'll take a look at that this week. Okay. So let's just kind of get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a new document and kind of gone over these. File, this is your menu bar up here. File, this is where you new document, open document, and so on. So we're going to go up here. So go to new document. We're going to get in the habit of naming it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to name it. When it pops up, we're going to come over here. We're going to name it. And we're going to say exercise 1. Okay. And we're just going to do 11 by 8.5. We're going to do it, generally speaking, this is a letter size, right? So let's just do it landscape size. And you can kind of switch the orientation right there. This tells you the number of artboards. Let's do 2. And let's have a bleed of 0.125 all the way around. Okay. Right in here is your settings that you use all the time. So if you've used, I use a lot of 8 by 8, 11 by 8.5, and so on. And this right now is in inches. There's going to be times where maybe you're asked to do something for Instagram. That is, I do it by pixels. So you change it right here by pixels, and it's 1080 by 1080 pixels. And so that's when you're doing something for Instagram, I just literally say 1080 by 1080 pixels. Okay, but let's go on up to inches, and we're going to go up to 11 by 8.5. Okay, we're going to start off there. We're going to say create. Now, right now, I have 2 artboards right now, and that's basically my 2 pieces of paper. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you, I'm going to just kind of go down these tools till I explain to you what they are. Now, the first tool that we're going to go over, well, first, you know what? Let's get organized, okay? Just like we were kind of taught in the last tutorial. So, we're going to keep our toolbar right here on the left, our tool palette, and then we're going to open up the color palette or the color panel, and then we're going to open up the type panel, which is we're going to go to type and then character. Okay, and then we're going to kind of push those together, okay, like we talked about. And then we're going to open up the stroke palette. Let's open that up right here, and we're going to slide that in here. See how it turns blue? Now we have that. All right, let's push all these up so that they're all right, nice and kind of cozy in there. And that's good to start off with. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to kind of pan and zoom. All right, so if I had a circle, okay, on here, and I'll show you how to make that later, but if I had something like that on there and I wanted to zoom up, these very bottom 2 tools right here allows for you to zoom. So if I wanted to zoom in, I click it, and right now there's a plus sign in the middle of that zoom tool or magnifying glass. If I hit Option or Alt, it changes it to minus. So if on my keyboard, okay, so right now I can double click, 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 and it zooms in. If I hold Alt and click out, then it zooms out. I can also take and just hold my mouse down, okay, and that'll zoom me in. I can also kind of zoom around by using my mouse kind of pushing and pulling. I can also use the hand tool. Okay, now as you hover over these buttons, you're going to have these, you see how it says selection tool, parentheses V, close parentheses, magic wand tool, open parentheses Y, close parentheses. Well, right down here it says hand tool, H in parentheses. If I press the H on the keyboard, then it changes to that tool. Now, a really quick way to also change the hand tool, and the hand tool basically allows for you to kind of move the piece of paper around to where you would rather go. So if I pressed, right now I'm pressing the space bar. That is a a good little trick you can kind of keep handy. I use that all the time. So I'm going to zoom in, okay, and I'm going to use the hand tool, and I'm going to kind of go around the artboard right there, okay. Now if you double click the hand tool, it brings you all the way straight out. So I'm going to come in, all right, and then I'm going to double click the hand tool, and I'm going to come straight out. If I double click it, it's going to bring me straight out to just this individual artboard that I'm working on. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you, so that's pan and zoom. So kind of panning and zooming around the artboard, okay? Now right now it says that I'm on artboard 1. As you can see right down here, it says I'm on artboard 1. Now if I come over here and come on over here, it says I'm on artboard 2. That's what the artboard navigation is, okay? So that's kind of, if you don't know which artboard you are on, that's it. Now, let's just say I don't want both of these artboards up. Well, that's what this tool is. And we're kind of going up, but I'm gonna do these two right here, and then I'm gonna come on up here and show you. This right here is your artboard tool, okay? So your artboard tool basically shows you your artboards. So if I have my artboard tool and I click that, that's the artboard that I have. And you can make your artboard any size you want. I can have one size, I can have another one size. I'm going to go Command Z to go backwards. If I want to delete an artboard, I can click that and I can actually hit delete on my keyboard and it deletes the artboard. If I wanted to copy something, there's several different ways to copy something, okay? And I'm going to show you this a little bit later, but I'm going to tell you this right now, and then you'll remember later. There's Command C, which is, we talked about this, Command copy, which is basically a way to copy, and then Command V, which is paste. So you go Command C, Command V, whoops, wrong thing there. Whoa, that's from a different project there. Let me take that off. And that's Command C, Command V, but you can't copy and paste artboards. But what you can do is there's another way, and you can hold the Option button down, which we talked about in the other tutorial. Is you can hold this down, you can hold the Option tool, and it'll copy it over. Now, if I held the Option tool, then I can bring that artboard anywhere I want, okay? If I held the Option tool and the Shift tool, then that actually allows for me to go perfectly straight across with that. It basically allows for you to go perfectly straight across or perfectly up and down, okay? So Shift allows for you to move things on each axis at a perfect kind of right angle, okay? Alt allows for you to copy it. Now let's move on up here. Let's get rid of these artboards and let's just use one. So I'm gonna take this, I hit delete, okay. So right now, this red line right here is called your bleed line, okay? We talked about that earlier. And the bleed is basically if you had something on the page and you didn't want a little white stripe to happen when it was at a cutter or some sort of, if there's a bunch of business cards that are laid on top of each other and the cutter comes down, the cutter kind of shifts when they're at a printer. So if you have a bunch of pieces of paper on top of each other and you went to go and cut down, then the cutter's going to shift a little bit. So that's what happens when you'll get this little white stripe on your on the edge of anything that you're printing if it doesn't have a bleed. So what you do is you kind of allow for it. So let's say if this was a black shape, if it's right here on the edge and this so happens to be the piece of paper that you're printing and you have a bunch of them, then it's going to eventually cut right in here somewhere. But if you kind of extend that, and it kind of cheats it. It kind of cheats the cutter. That's called a bleed area. So you always want to kind of have a bleed on it. So you're not really printing at 8.5 by 11. You're printing at 8.5 by 11. Actually, you're printing a little bit higher than that, and then you're cutting it at 8.5 by 11, but you're kind of bleeding it off the edge. Okay. So that just does that. It will not show up here. That's just your guides. Okay. So let me get situated here. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is selecting things. All right. So the first thing that you have right here, or you have ways to select items. These are your first two kind of buttons. So your first button is you're going to select a shape. Okay, in Illustrator, like we were talking about earlier, what's the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator is it's points versus pixels, remember? So if I had a shape right now and I drew a black shape, and the reason you know it's a black shape is because this is what this is down here. This right now has a black, what's called a fill. If I wanted to change the color, I select which one I want to color. So this is a black fill and it has a blue stroke. Okay, a black fill, a blue stroke. If I want to switch those, then that's what that looks like, a blue fill and a black stroke. If I wanted to make that stroke larger, well then here's one of my palettes right over here. I can take the stroke palette and I can make it larger. Okay. If I wanted to change the color of that black stroke, all I do, let's say I want to change the fill, then I select that. When it brings it to the forward or in front of, then that's what I'm about to do, is I'm about to fill that. So let me just change that color. So right now I have a purple shape fill with a black stroke. Let's change the stroke to say orange. All right, so right now I have a purple fill and an orange stroke. Okay, if I did not want a stroke, see how this is in the foreground right here? Then I'm going to just turn it off. That means none. Now I have no stroke. If I don't want to fill, no fill. Okay, let's go backwards. Now, remember we were talking about points versus pixels, okay? And we at one of the tutorials we talked about how I think we did about how look at Illustrator as if you were kind of doing cut paper, okay? Kind of like craft, okay? Like a craft in art class. You're doing cut paper. You have all these pieces of paper, okay? You have different colors, okay, of paper all around. And literally it's positioning these different pieces of paper in front of each other, okay? Now that's very elementary and that's kind of, but you need to kind of grasp that thought first, okay? Once you grasp that thought, then you can change those little pieces of paper, those, square pieces of paper into different shapes. Well, those different shapes turn into different shapes of a person or a character or a logo, right? Maybe you have a logo that's sitting on top of a circle and you want a square behind that circle. Well, then you would be able to do that, okay? That's kind of, you can do whatever you want. You can create logos and icons and illustrations and all these different things within Illustrator. Now, so let's come up here to ways to select things, okay? Because ways to select things in Illustrator is very different than ways to select things in Photoshop. It's actually more similar to select things in InDesign though, okay? So that's what I'm going to teach you, is I'm going to teach you Illustrator, InDesign, and then Photoshop. All right, so to select things, that's my black arrow. Now, if you look on your tools palette, you can kind of see here you have different types of, you have these arrows that are down here. That means, hey, there's more buttons underneath me. So if I hold and click, that means there's more buttons underneath me. We have here, we have this one, we have a bunch of under here. Some of them don't have arrows underneath of them. That means there's no buttons under there, okay? So if you take this, then you have all these different buttons under here. And then there's this little like tear off tab. And you have that, you can kind of have that and let it kind of float out there. But let's go ahead and turn that off. And I'm just going to show you right here. You have, and you're going to have to give me a moment because all of these tools change all the time, okay? So when I first started, there was like literally 6 different tools on here. There were never all of these tools on here. But, we learn every day and we learn new things every day. But basically you have, these are the ways to select things, okay? You have a black arrow and a white arrow. So these are the first 2 things that I'm going to show you right here, okay? So the black arrow basically selects objects. I can select an object and I can move it, okay? I can select it and I can move it with my mouse. Now, the difference between Photoshop, remember, is points versus pixels, right? So this right here is actually made up of 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know there's other little things right in here, but literally that is telling you what is the center, okay? So this is telling you points, okay? And the way that you can memorize, well, how do I know how many shapes does, how many points does a shape have? Well, a triangle has 3 points, right? A circle actually has 4 points, okay? Anywhere where something changes direction is going to be a different point, all right? So right here, my black arrow, let's go back. Black arrow selects the shapes and it moves it. The white arrow actually selects the points. Okay, right now, I have blue points right here, and right here. Now, these little things right here are new to Illustrator. This is literally, I'm just going to show you real quick. This says, hey, I want a rounded rectangle. And if you do that and you push it in, then it'll change it, okay? That's all that is. This tells you the center. But right now here it says these points right in here are blue. They are highlighted blue. That means the whole shape is selected. If I just selected one point, you see how that's blue and the rest are white? Well, that means that only one point is selected. Now, remember when I told you that Alt or Option means to copy or paste, right? You can hold down an object. Let me get my selection tool and I can take my object and I can hold Option and I can paste it, okay? And literally I'm just holding Option, right? Well, the way to select this is if I take this, okay, if I wanted to select both of these items, then I could take my black selection tool and I could kind of draw like I'm selecting all of it. I hold down my mouse and it selects both. I can also select it a different way. If I clicked it, and then if I held down Shift, it would select multiple things. So if I had a bunch of things, let me just kind of get this in here. Okay, so let's just say, let me make these like this. All right, so let's just say I want to select all of these. If I click this, held Shift, click, 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 I'm holding Shift, then I've now selected all of them. I can take one away if I hold Shift and click this one, then it just is this one. I can hold Shift again, and so basically it minuses and it pluses. You can add a shape, you can minus a shape, right? So same thing that you do with shapes, you can also do for points, okay? So remember over here I said black arrow selects the shapes and moves them around. White arrow selects the points, okay? This top one, not the plus one, but this white one says direct selection tool. So if I can select one point, then I should be able to hold Shift, right, and select 2 points. So now I have 2 points. And I should be able to come around and hold 3. So you see how 1, 2, 3 are selected, then they're all 3 selected. Okay, so that's a big deal. So, so that's a way to select. Now here's another way to select, the lasso tool. The lasso tool allows for you to come in here and draw an area. Let's say I want this area. Now this is really a nice little area because there's only 2 points, but sometimes you have shapes that have like 100 points. We don't want to go in and you don't want to select all these shapes, all these points, and keep holding Shift down and do all that. So that's what this allows for you to do, is allows for you to get an area of points. And then you can come back over here, get your direct selection tool. Those are still 2 highlighted, right? And then you can move it wherever you want, okay? So that's really important because once I tell you about the type tool, then this is when you can kind of go in and you can manipulate points with specific typography, and you can create your own fonts. You can do anything like that. You create your own shapes just by using the direct selection tool to be able to do that. Now, so let's go back. I'm going to go back and I'm just doing literally like Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. I do that a lot, by the way. I make a lot of mistakes. So, so I'm going to come in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bunch of purple shapes and a bunch of green shapes. Okay. So let's say that I want to select all of these shapes. So I can take my black arrow tool and I can select all these shapes. And you have this kind of like, we're going to call it like a bounding box, okay? If you come over here to the corner, you can make these small or large, however you want. Now, one of the things you really need to get in the habit of doing is, you see how these have like skewed? We don't want to do that. We don't want to get in that habit. You always, so I'm going to go backwards. Anytime you want to make something smaller or larger, you're going to select it. You're going to come over here, and where you held shift to make something perfectly to the right of it or perfectly up and down, you're going to hold shift and come onto the side, and it will stay a perfect ratio up and down. Okay, so let's just say that we want to select this, and we're going to take this down, and now we're going to copy and paste it. Well, we can Command C, Command V it, or we can just hold Option down. We can create a million of them, hundreds of them, right? You can take them even farther down and keep a ton of them and keep going. You can create really cool patterns. You can create really cool textures, all in Illustrator, all very quickly, a lot quicker than you might think. Now, let's say that we take this pattern to a client and they say, oh, you know what, I love that pattern, blah 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 blah, but we changed our branding elements and now we're not green anymore, we want orange. Well, that's okay. So that's what we have this magic wand for. So we take this magic wand and we select the green, and this says I'm going to select everything that is alike. For Illustrator, this is everything that is alike in color. That's generally speaking what that means. So if I touch this, then it will select all the greens, and you can come in and you can change it to orange. Okay, so that's pretty cool. You can also say, you know what, I want to change every of the dark purple, and I don't want it purple, I want it white with a black stripe. You can do that. You can do tons of things. Oh, I want everything with a white with a black stripe, but I want the stroke, right? Remember, this is a fill and a stroke. I actually want the stroke to be thinner. So you can come in here and make it real thin. You can go all the way down, okay? So you can do tons and tons of things, which is really, really cool. I can even take all of this right in here, because all it is really is just shapes. Like if you literally are just thinking, it's literally just shapes on a piece of paper. It's like moving shapes of pieces of paper around other pieces of paper. That's all it is. Okay, so that's really cool. So let's kind of regroup. Selection tool selects shapes, right? Selects the shapes. I come in here and I select shapes. White direct selection tool selects points. Okay, I can select whatever points I want. Lasso tool, it allows for us to take a given area and select it. Okay, now that's a lot of points in there. That's what I was talking about. You can take all that and you can do whatever you want and really, really kind of have fun with some different shapes, okay? We're not really going to talk about group selection tool because I don't ever use that, so we're not going to talk about that. We talked about magic wand tool, selects everything that's like in color. That's what that is. Okay, let's change it again. Let's do blue. Okay. All right. So now's your pen tool. I'm going to actually come back to this, okay? Because this right here, this is the hardest tool to use in Illustrator, is the pen tool. But I'm gonna teach it to you, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is, let's get off of that. Next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and select all of this, super easy, and we're just gonna hit delete. There's some other things right in there. All right, now see how I'm zoomed in really quick? Remember what we learned before? Double click on your hand tool and it brings you out, okay? So let's get organized again. Okay, now let's come over here to the type tool. Now, the type tool is fun, but I do not want to get you into a bunch of bad habits, okay? So the type tool, for one, is so let's do this actually. So let's kind of do this. So one of the bad habits that you can get into is a lot of people will take this and they'll do it like some other, I don't know, Microsoft Word maybe. I don't know what other document software program people do this in, but do not draw a giant box and just start typing in it. That's not really something that you would do in Illustrator. A lot of people do that, but that's not a good habit to get into, because if you have a large body of copy, then you're gonna want to do that in InDesign, because that's what InDesign is made for. Okay. Illustrator is mainly made for 1, 2, 3 2, 3 words, sometimes a sentence. Sometimes I do a lot of type in here where I will stack type on top of each other. The best thing to do, and let me tell you the reason why. So I'm gonna show you the difference. So let's say I have this and I just start typing, I really would like a cheeseburger, exclamation point. This is the truth. I would really like a cheeseburger, but you know. All right, so right now I would really like a cheeseburger. Now you can do this, and this is good because you can kind of take this and make it however you want, right? You see how? But if you want to make it larger, you got to come in here. You got to highlight it. Okay, you got to come over here to your character palette. You got to change your font. You got to make it larger. I really would like a cheeseburger. Okay, and you can do all that. That's fine. You can do that. But one of the things about graphic design is it is important to be quick. I mean, it really is. I mean, people may tell you differently, but you need to be quick. And the quicker you can be quick, and just because you go quick doesn't mean that you do bad design. Okay, so it really is just a matter of how do you quickly do something. How can you do things half the time? Okay, so this right here, I'm going to copy this. Okay, and you remember what I did first when I created this is I just created a text box. But see, Illustrator doesn't really want you to do that. So if you click this and just click it down, now this right here is like Greek. This is like it already kind of fills in. Now I didn't draw a text box. Okay, let me take that off. I just clicked it one time, and then I'm going to paste it. Okay, I really would like a cheeseburger. Okay, and the reason this is important is because it still reads it as text, but you can come over here and you can make it as large or as small as you want, and that's really the key. So for instance, let's come in here and just say click cheeseburger. Okay, now look, I can come in here, I can make this as large as I want. You see how fast this is taking me? I mean, it's literally taking me no time to create something like this. Okay, and it's important because now you want to be able to like manipulate this, right? So I can take this and I can fumble with this all day long, but it's annoying, and you really don't need to be using that much type in Illustrator. Okay, so let's just kind of leave this like this, okay? And so here's my type. Okay, right now the computer is looking and reading this as type. When you have a line down here, that means it's type. Now, character palette, if I double click on it, triple click on it, this is you can make it larger here, okay? But you can also come over here, hold shift. Make sure you always hold shift if you're going to make it smaller or larger. Okay, always hold shift. If not, it's just not going to do well, and don't do that. Hold shift always if you're trying to make type smaller or larger. Okay, that's a really big habit you need to get into, is holding shift. Now, unless there's some sort of reason that you need to be going like that, but I guarantee you it's going to be very, very minimal. It's not going to be all the time. You may do it 10 times in your lifetime as a graphic designer. Okay. So here we go. Right here we have cheeseburger. Now, right now we have, so this right here is the type. This right here is called, this right here is called tracking. Tracking is basically the space in between the type, okay? In between each letter is called tracking. Now, if you had, let's just say that we went ahead and had cheeseburger, now I'm telling you not to do it, but I'm going to kind of tell you. Actually, I'm not going to tell you that quite yet. I'll tell you that in InDesign. So right now we have cheeseburger, okay? But we want to manipulate this. I like this font. It's nice, Century Gothic. It's great. Actually, let's get rid of this. Let's take Babe is New right here. This is a cool font. Okay. I like this, but let's say I really, really want this U right here to be longer, and I want the bottom of this H to be longer. How do I do that? So I take my black arrow tool right here, and I'm going to go, right now the Illustrator is looking at it as type. So it's still editable. Okay, so if it's still editable, I can come in, I can add whatever I want in there. Okay, it's still editable. Once you're done figuring out what font you want it, and you're done with it, and you want to manipulate it, and you're done editing it as far as letters go, then you can go ahead and come up here to type and go create outlines. Once you create outlines, the computer, once it does what's called grouping it together. So you want to get in this habit. Right now, if I touch this, everything is grouped together. So what I did was, I want you to get in this habit, okay? And write this down. Type, create outlines, object, ungroup, okay? So once you, let's go back here. Let me not make it outlines. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go type, type, create outlines, object, ungroup. If you just get in that habit, then you can literally take things all over the place and do whatever you want with them. Okay. So that's fun. Okay. So this is how you then begin to really create logos. Okay. So let me bring this back. Command Z. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to take this U. And you would think I want to stretch it like that, right? But no, we don't want to do that. Okay, because that's literally stretching the type. We don't want to do that because that's cheesy. It really is. So let's go back. We want to take everything we've learned thus far about shapes and points, and we want to, because once you've created the type once you've created it into outlines, you've now created it into a shape. So it's no different than a square or a circle or a triangle or anything else. The computer is looking at it as a shape. So if I'm able to create a rectangle and move points, then I should be able to create type, create that into shapes, and move points. So that's what we want to do. Okay, so let's take our white arrow. Remember, that created points, or selected points. You see, now I'm just selecting this one point. Look how many points this U is made up of. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always in a curve, you have 3 points. So that's why in a circle, you actually have 4 points. A circle is made up of 4 points. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. I think I counted that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to take this point, this point, this point, this point, and move it up. So let's take both of these first. Actually, we can take all of these, right? And we can move it up, okay? That way, this doesn't get skewed down there, and nothing else gets skewed. Same happens with down here. Okay, we want to just move this all the way down, okay? Now, maybe we want to take certain other points and move them straight up. Maybe we want to take different points and, move them straight out. There's lots of things that we can do that, the sky's the limit, really. So, this is where you really need to have fun and really kind of play. So what I want to do first is I want you to basically have fun with your name, okay? I want you to have fun with your name, Sydney, and I want you to do a bunch of different designs. Let's do a total of 3 designs, okay? So this would be like only do it in black first, okay? But go ahead and do that, and let's do like, you're going to do 3 designs, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to, you can make your artboard bigger if you want, doesn't matter. You can type out the word, Sydney, put it in any font you want, okay? And you're going to really just kind of come in here and you're going to, remember what you got to do. You got to go type, create outlines, object, ungroup, okay? And you can do whatever you want, okay? It doesn't matter what you do with it, but I want you to understand how to move things around. I want you to understand how to move points around. And you can also come over here and move things around like this if you want to. You're just going to move things around, and I want to see kind of what your eye does to these letters, okay? So you do whatever you want to do, but I want you to have 3 different ones, okay? When you're done with that, what I want you to do is I want you to go to File, Save As, okay? And what you're going to do in your documents, okay, I want you to create a folder that is called Internship, okay? And I want you to name it like this. Exercise 1, all right? And I want you to name it Type Study, okay? So you're going to do Internship, Exercise 1 folder. Inside that Exercise 1 folder, you're going to name it Type Study, and you're going to save it as Adobe Illustrator. And you're going to say, okay. Then, when you do that, I then want you to export. I want you to export as a PNG, okay? You're going to go Use Artboard, PNG, and it's already Type Study. Remember, you're going to go to Internship, Exercise 1. You're going to have Type Study and Type Study PNG. And all of your documents are going to be very similar to that way. You're going to save it as an AI file. You might save it as an InDesign file. Whatever the program you're in, you're going to save that as the file, and then you're going to export it as a PNG. Okay? Right now it says PNG options are 300. Leave that there. Transparent. Just go ahead and turn it to white for right now, okay? We're going to say okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to close that, and you're going to be done with that. All right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to come over here and you're going to go to Basecamp. All right? You're going to sign in your Basecamp. Okay? Now mine is going to look very, very different than yours. I have a whole lot of projects, okay? But my project is Sydney, all right? So, Sydney, what I want you to do is you're going to find something that's going to say Sydney Intern Project, okay? And I'm actually going to change this. I put up icons, but I'm going to actually make this, just disregard this right now, okay? And I'm going to put up Exercise 1, Type Study. And what I want you to do is you're going to see this right here, okay? And you're going to know from this video what you need to do. When you come in here, so when you see projects, okay, Sydney, you're going to see this list. You may have just one, okay? So that list, yeah, you're definitely going to have one or two, probably one. So you're going to say Sydney Intern Project, and this is going to pop up on your screen. I want you to, these are the different discussions. So think about this right here as like your notebook, okay? And each one of these little discussions are like little tiny inserts that you put in your notebook for each section, okay? So this is like section number 1, and sometimes they'll be in different orders, and that's okay, but just remember, like, these are different sections within inside your notebook. So click on that type study, all right? And what I want you to do is you're going to click on that and you're going to say, discuss this message. Click right here. You're going to select your file, all right? You're going to come in to exercise 1, type study, and you're going to choose it, okay? And what you're going to do is you're just going to send it to me. You're going to click right here, and all you're going to do is you're going to see me on here, okay, Emily. So you're going to select that and you're going to add a comment, all right? And so right now, this will be right now within there, okay? And that's what you'll see. I'm going to delete this for right now so you don't see it, all right? But right now, what you're going to do is you're going to come in here, you're going to put on the type study, you're going to do yours type. You should have 3 different examples that you're going to put in there. Let's go over that again. You're going to hit this discussion, you're going to come up here, you're going to select your file, okay, you got to find it. You're going to do documents, internship, exercise, type study, just the PNG. Choose, put it on there, and you're going to select me, because what happens is that notifies me by an email. And you're going to add comment, okay? And then you're done. That's your first exercise, okay? I want to see how you do with that. And I want you to do that tomorrow, okay? I'm going to post this video up right now. I'm also going to post up another video for the pen tool. But I don't want you to do that quite yet. I want to see if you do this one, how you do on this one, okay? All right. I'm actually probably going to do this video. I'm going to post this, and then I'm going to post another video on a couple more tools and then the pen tool, okay? So have fun, do that exercise, and we will talk tonight or tomorrow. All right.